The Marvel Universe is home to thousands of alien and cosmic races, gods, conquerors, and architects of reality itself. But today, we're focusing on the ones you've actually seen, the cosmic races that exist inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and why each of them matter far more than you might think. The Celestials. Long before the universe looked anything like it does now, there were the Celestials. They're the first beings ever to exist, even before the six singularities that would later shape everything else. These beings were responsible for creation itself. The Celestials formed stars, built planets, and introduced life into the universe, essentially turning space into something living.
Create suns, generating gravity, heat, and light for new galaxies to form.
They're led by Arishem the Judge, who oversees their work and decides how creation moves forward across the cosmos. To keep their kind going, the Celestials started planting seeds inside developing planets. These seeds would sit there for thousands, sometimes millions of years, slowly growing as civilizations formed on the surface. In simple terms, to these guys, planets are incubators, just farms floating around in space that they can use to grow baby Celestials. When a Celestial does emerge, though, a planet doesn't survive. Tiamat's emergence would have literally shredded Earth apart. In terms of how they look, these beings are massive, towering over entire worlds, and they all have a unique look. One thing that they all have in common is that they're personalized armors, because all of them have some kind of plating or armor instead of skin. Also, they have an unnecessary amount of eyes. Arishem alone has like 6. The Eternals. The Eternals were created by the Celestials as a means to control the Deviants, another race that the Celestials created. Early on, some of these Eternals arrived on Earth and quietly lived, but in the modern era, they became scattered. Now, they look just like your average human being. From a first glance, you'd never be able to tell you're in the presence of some ancient cosmic life form, but their history is a lot darker. They're sent to different planets, aiding the Celestials by helping the evolution of sentient life forms. These lives then power the growing Celestial seated within that world, and once it's all said and done, they're called back, have their memories wiped, and repeat the process. Skrulls. These are a shape-shifting alien species that can perfectly mimic the appearance of anybody, as we see with Nick Fury many times over. They're native to their planet, Skrulls, and have been a part of a very long conflict with the Kree, who we will get to in a bit. Early on, that ability makes everyone suspicious of them. But once we actually spend time with them, especially in Captain Marvel, the picture changes. By then, the Skrulls aren't conquerors, they're refugees. Their homeworld is gone, their population is scattered, and they're being hunted across the galaxy by the Kree. A group of Skrulls, led by Talos, ends up on Earth looking for somewhere safe to exist. They use their shape-shifting to hide in plain sight, not to manipulate or invade. That's a big shift from how they're usually portrayed. They don't just occupy Earth, but many planets. A group of them started living on Aphos Prime, with another on Sigel, a planet under the Nova Empire. As the MCU goes on, Skrulls quietly become part of Earth's story. They've used their powers to assist S.H.I.E.L.'s spy network, with a network of 20 operatives, but there are way more of them than just a few dozen. After the snap, Talos gathered many Skrulls from across the galaxies to Earth for safety, and the actual number is easily in the hundreds of thousands. Some blend into human life, others work behind the scenes. Their presence mostly complicates things, especially around trust, identity, and who's actually who. Krees. The Kree are a militaristic alien species from the planet Hala. They're technologically advanced, highly authoritarian, and organized as a massive interstellar empire.
Minerva, do you have eyes on this? Keep them back. Minerva!
Does anybody copy?
Their biggest ongoing conflicts are with the Skrulls and the Nova Empire. The Kree frame this as a defensive war, but in reality, they're the aggressors. They destroy Skrull worlds and hunt survivors across the galaxy. This is the backdrop of Captain Marvel, where Carol Danvers is recruited into the Kree military, trained as part of Starforce, and has her memories manipulated to keep her loyal. She eventually learns the truth, turns against the Kree, and dismantles their leadership by destroying the Supreme Intelligence. The Kree also appear in Guardians of the Galaxy through Ronan the Accuser. Ronan rejects a peace treaty with Xandar, radicalizes further, and attempts to wipe out the planet using an Infinity Stone. Later on, the consequences of Carol's actions catch up to the Kree. By the Marvels, Hala is collapsing, the Empire is fractured, and Kree leadership is fighting over what's left. These people have been waging war across the universe for thousands of years, and it has begun to take its toll. The Watchers. These guys are a race of omniscient beings whose entire duty, purpose, and existence is about, you guessed it, watching. These guys are nigh omniscient, and they really do just observe everything and anything. Watchers have a mostly humanoid appearance, but there are some obvious differences. They're much taller than humans, with oversized bald heads and eyes that don't have visible irises. In their natural form, they already tower over most species, and they're able to make themselves appear even larger when they choose to. Watu is a Watcher we've seen up close and personal. By taking the Oath of the Watchers, he became one, which means he couldn't ever interfere in anything. He had to break this oath to stop Ultron from destroying everything.
I see you.
He looks a bit different in the What If series. The ones we see in the Stan Lee cameo at the end of Guardians 2 are pretty similar, with gray, dull skin, blank eyes, and bald heads. Watu, on the other hand, looks like a dark-skinned guy in his 40s. The Titans. These guys were a humanoid species that lived on a planet of the same name. It was once a thriving world, rich in resources and advanced enough to support a large civilization. Titan is best known as the homeworld of Thanos, but it's also the source of his trauma. It takes a special mind, not necessarily a healthy one, to look at a planet struggling with resources and think, yeah, wipe out half the universe. As a people, the Titans were generally human-like in appearance, walking upright with similar facial features and builds much like the character Eros. Most looked fairly ordinary, but some individuals developed noticeable differences. Thanos, in particular, was born physically larger and more imposing than others. Titan's downfall came as its population grew faster than its resources could support. Facing total collapse, Thanos proposed a drastic solution, randomly eliminating half the population to save the planet. The Titans rejected his idea, and over time, eventually Titan fell into ruin with nearly the entire race being wiped out. The Humans. We're actually one of the most versatile races in the entire MCU. While humans aren't really technologically advanced or well-known, there's a lot they have going for them. Namely, human biology seems to be very compatible with all kinds of augmentations and even other races. Captain America, the Hulk, Bucky Barnes, Spider-Man, Black Panther, and the X-Men are all perfect examples of that. Speaking of the X-Men, there are many subgroups within humans, such as mutants. These are people who were born with the X gene, and due to it, have a different physiology that grants them unique powers.
You guys won. I didn't do anything.
Probably the best thing about being a human is their adaptability. People like the Fantastic Four and Carol Danvers adapted to cosmic exposure, which changed them forever. Some humans, due to these changes, don't look like everyone else, such as the Thing. Despite that, they're very mortal. They don't have the lifespan of an Asgardian, the durability or strength of a Titan, the intelligence of a flerken, the specialization of a dwarf, but they manage to get by regardless. Easily one of the most unpredictable groups in all of Marvel, you never know who the next hero from Earth is going to be. The Inhumans. More than 5,000 years ago, a rogue group of Kree broke away from their empire with a specific goal in mind, creating an army of superpowered soldiers. To do that, they sent out research teams across the galaxy, experimenting on different species in hopes of unlocking enhanced abilities. Most of those experiments failed, but everything changed when they arrived on Earth. The Kree discovered that humans were uniquely compatible with their genetic tampering. The results were strong enough that they constructed a massive hidden facility beneath what is now Puerto Rico to continue their work. By exposing these altered humans to Terrigen crystals and the mist released from them, the Kree triggered a process called terrigenesis. This activated dormant genetic changes, granting each subject a distinct superhuman ability. These transformed humans became the first Inhumans. So what started as a Kree weapons program ended up creating an entirely new branch of human-Kree hybrids. Chitauri? The Chitauri, as Rocket would put it,
The Chitauri, the suckiest army in the galaxy. Why don't you just blow up the mothership?
they're presented as reptilian, cybernetically enhanced soldiers with grayish skin and 6 fingers, and their bodies are fused with technology that gives them strength, agility, and built-in weapons. They're not individuals so much as parts of a larger fighting force, and they follow a hive mind structure rather than acting independently. Their most iconic appearance is in the original Avengers, when Loki opens a portal above New York using the Tesseract and unleashes a massive Chitauri invasion. Huge swarms of troops and flying Leviathan creatures pour into the city, overwhelming first responders and pushing the Avengers to come together and fight back. The Chitauri aren't just a one-off threat. They're shown or referenced in later MCU stories, including Avengers Age of Ultron, where Hydra studies their tech, and in Spider-Man Homecoming, where their gear gets stolen and repurposed into weapons, and Avengers Endgame, where they fight under Thanos' command again. They pretty much look and act like your typical video game grunts or cannon fodder. The talokanils. These are the fish people we saw during Wakanda. You know the guys with spears that look like they just came out of Avatar? The story behind them is actually pretty unique. A very long time ago, a meteor containing vibranium crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and it ended up mutating the plant life around it. A while later, a Yucatan Mayan tribe was in the same area, and one of the tribesmen ended up finding a plant enriched with vibranium. When this person woke up, they had blue skin, gills, and the ability to breathe underwater. Eventually, these people would end up in the Kingdom of Talokan in Yucatan, Mexico, and they really hate humans. They're a reserved people that stick to their underwater kingdom, but they played a big part in Black Panther 2 during the war between Namor and Wakanda, comprising the majority of Namor's forces.
For Wakanda!
Flerkens? Flerkens are a race of creatures that possess 3 incredible things: human-level intelligence, pocket dimensions within their own bodies, and the form, shape, and voice of a cat. Essentially, they're living, intelligent storage. Remember Goose? That one cat that puked out the Tesseract? That's a flerken. Ever wonder how a cat was able to hold something like the Tesseract? It's because they have these massive pocket dimensions inside their bodies that are capable of storing almost anything. They also have large tentacles that they can use to attack enemies and swallow objects. In terms of their appearance, they look and behave almost identically to a cat. Aladdinians. A race of singing aliens, Aladdinians come from Aladdin, led by their Prince Yan, who is the only one of their kind that can speak English.
We need to talk.
Okay, let's talk.
Oh, wait. He doesn't have to sing? Yeah, he's bilingual.
The rest of them communicate through song, and they actually will not understand you if you don't sing back.
Their language is song. Most of them won't understand you unless you sing.
Physically, they're identical to humans, with the few that we see alongside Prince Yan resembling your normal, everyday people. Kronans. One of the many races you can find in the 9 realms. Kronans are a humanoid people entirely made of rock. They're also incredibly tall, and their rock formation gives them incredible strength and durability. These stone men come from the planet Rhea, and we briefly see one of them during the battle against Asgardians on Vanaheim as a part of the Marauders' forces. We also know that some of them were a part of the Ravagers, an intergalactic group of criminals comprised of aliens from dozens of different kinds of races. And who could forget the OG and most well-known one of them, Korg? Sovereigns. The Sovereign are the golden people you first see in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They're a highly advanced, genetically engineered race created by the High Evolutionary, and they live on a group of worlds collectively called Sovereign. Physically, they look exactly like humans, but they're just literally golden all over, from their hair to their skin, eyes, and everything else. They're not golden just for show. These guys really do have a superiority problem. They sent an entire fleet of sovereign drones with shoot-to-kill orders just because rockets stole some of their batteries. I mean, sure, stealing is a crime, but an entire fleet?
That high priestess talked down to us. Now I'm teaching her a lesson. What in real...
Their leader is High Priestess Aisha, who is extremely proud, extremely elegant, and extremely done with anyone who disrespects her people. The Sovereigns show up again in later stories tied to Adam Warlock, a being they hope will be the ultimate weapon against the Guardians. Outriders. The forces that Thanos used in the Battle of Wakanda and the final endgame fight were largely made up of the Outriders. These aliens have leathery black, yellow skin and 4 arms with claws. They also have spear-like body parts that seem to spread out from their hand, and they can run like humans on 2 legs or like animals on all 4s. They have great physical ability, but not much intelligence. The Outriders are essentially a mindless force of alien fodder that Thanos used to fill up the ranks of his army. They do have basic sense, though, and they started to flee when they felt like they were losing the fight in Wakanda and Endgame. Nidavellir dwarves. One of the most famous groups in all of the 9 realms and much of the Marvel Universe, these dwarves are responsible for some of the strongest weaponry ever made. Funnily enough, despite Atri being shown to be taller than Thor, they're still called dwarves for some reason.
Atri, wait! Stop!
I guess 6 feet and up isn't enough anymore. Speaking of Atri, he's the only Nidavellir dwarf we ever see in person, because the rest of them were wiped out by Thanos due to their incredible weaponsmithing abilities.
I made what he wanted, a device capable of harnessing the power of the stones. And he killed everyone anyway.
They made the Infinity Gauntlet, Stormbreaker, and many more weapons both for Asgard and others, and that's exactly why Thanos didn't want them using their skills against him. Asgardians. The Asgardians are a powerful, long-lived humanoid race from the realm of Asgard. To most of the galaxy, they're treated like gods, but in reality, they're an advanced civilization whose strength, technology, and lifespans put them far beyond ordinary beings. At the center of Asgard's history is Odin, the All-Father. Odin ruled Asgard for thousands of years, leading wars of conquest before eventually turning toward peace and restraint. His reign shaped most of what Asgard became. Odin's family defines much of the MCU's Asgardian story. Frigga, his wife, served as both queen and protector, skilled in magic and diplomacy. Their sons couldn't be more different. Thor is raised to be a warrior and future king, while Loki, Odin's adopted baby, grows up in Thor's shadow, eventually becoming one of the MCU's most complicated figures. Then there's Hela, Odin's firstborn. She was once his weapon and partner during Asgard's most violent era, but was later imprisoned when her hunger for conquest became too dangerous.
But then, simply because my ambition outgrew his, he banished me, caged me, locked me away like an animal.
Watching over Asgard is Heimdall, the all-seeing guardian of the Bifrost, whose loyalty lies with the realm rather than any one ruler. Not every Asgardian is a big-name ruler or god. In fact, there are many questionable Asgardians. Across the MCU, the Asgardians have had a long history. They were once conquerors who then became protectors, but ironically ended up as refugees themselves when Asgard itself was destroyed, and its people relocated to New Asgard in Norway, on Earth.
Kind of a step down from the golden palaces and the magic hammers and whatnot.
Hey, have a little compassion, pal. First they lost Asgard, then half the people. They're probably just happy.
Olympians. Back in ancient Greece and during the Roman Empire, the Olympians were actively worshipped as gods. Over time, that changed. As human belief faded, the Olympians withdrew from Earth altogether. They relocated to Omnipotent City, a hidden realm where gods from many pantheons lived together. There, Zeus took control as the leader of the Council of Godheads. If you compare them to Asgardians, They aren't nearly as strong, advanced, or important within the universe, which sort of becomes a plot point when Zeus tries to get Thor murdered. They want their old glory back, but they also don't really know how to achieve that.
That's the sound of lightning.
The Dark Elves. This is one of the oldest races in the entire MCU. The Dark Elves come from the Ginnungagap, the vast, endless void that existed before the universe was formed. In that age of total darkness, they ruled without challenge. Everything changed once the universe took shape and the 9 realms began to rise. As light spread and new civilizations emerged, the Dark Elves lost their dominance. Rather than accept that shift, they set out to undo it. Led by the sorcerer Malekith, the Dark Elves planned to return the universe to its original state of darkness. To do that, Malekith created the Ether, a devastating weapon formed from a substance as ancient as the universe itself. His plan hinged on the Convergence, a rare cosmic event where the 9 realms briefly align. If timed correctly, the Convergence would allow the Ether's power to spread across all realms at once, restoring the darkness the Dark Elves once ruled over. The Asgardians stood against them, and the Dark Elves were put down by Bor, father of Odin, in a mighty battle that decimated a lot of the Dark Elf forces. After this, they would hibernate for around 5,000 years, resurfacing when the Ether had planted itself in the body of Jane Foster. This prompted Malekith to attempt the same plan again, but this time he directly invaded Asgard. However, he was stopped by Thor and Loki in Thor: The Dark World. Frost Giants. These are a race of massive humanoid beings who come from the frozen realm of Jotunheim. It's a harsh, icy world, and the Frost Giants are built to survive it. For a long time, they were ruled by Laufey, their king and the biological father of Loki. In the year 965 AD, the Frost Giants launched an invasion of Earth, targeting Tunsberg in Norway. Their goal was to conquer the planet and trigger a new ice age using a powerful relic known as the Casket of Ancient Winters. That invasion didn't last.
Threatening to plunge the mortal world into a new ice age.
Odin led an Asgardian army against them, and after a brutal war, the Frost Giants were forced back into Jotunheim. The Asgardians seized the casket and used their victory to impose a peace treaty, ending the Frost Giants' expansion and locking them into an uneasy truce. Currently, the Frost Giants are a broken and disbanded people. After the death of Laufey at the hands of Loki, they're not as organized or prominent. Fire demons. Not much is known about the monsters that inhabit the realm of Muspelheim. These beings, known as fire demons, are loyal servants of Surtur, the ruler of Muspelheim, however. In terms of appearance, they look like fiery goblins, with some being fairly sizable creatures. In terms of strength, a good number of them were not able to overpower Thor, so they're most likely about the same as your rank-and-file space soldiers. We haven't seen any advanced techniques from them. On top of that, it doesn't seem like Muspelheim follows a social structure similar to Asgard or Earth, so we don't know too much about how their society functions. Nova Corps. The primary military force of the Nova Empire is the Nova Corps, which also functions as their police force. They're responsible for the military efforts of the Nova Empire, and they're based in Sandar, the capital of the Nova Empire. They're a proper military, made up of an air force, pilots, captains, spies, and many soldiers. They look just like humans, but they all have the same blue uniform with 4 stripes on the right side. The rank-and-file corpsmen seem to have these dark metal helmets, though, along with vests, like in the scene where the Nova Corps thanks the Guardians.
On behalf of the Nova Corps, we'd like to express our profound gratitude for your help in saving Xandar.
Thank you, Nova Prime.
Thank you.
While the exact military structure of the Corps is unknown, we do know some high-ranking members, such as Roman Day, who held the rank of Millennian before being promoted to a Denarian. The Nova Corps was locked in a struggle against the Kree for an incredibly long time, but they eventually reached a peace agreement. However, Ronan the Accuser didn't approve of the truce. He had made a pact with Thanos to destroy Xandar. This led to the battle on Xandar that we see in Guardians of the Galaxy. The Corps worked together with the Guardians and were successful in protecting Xandar and defeating Ronan. In the end, the Guardians had entrusted them with the Orb, an artifact that housed the Power Stone. Unfortunately, this would also lead to their doom. Xandar became the first place Thanos targeted, and he obliterated half of its population, along with much of the Nova Corps, before he obtained the Power Stone. Symbiotes. The symbiotes are a species of living alien organisms that survive by bonding with a host. On their own, they're unstable and shapeless. Once bonded, they enhance the host's strength, speed, healing, and durability while feeding off their emotions and instincts. One of the most well-known examples is Venom, specifically the version bonded to Eddie Brock in Venom and its sequels. Venom is violent, impulsive, and dangerous, but he also forms a genuine bond with Eddie, creating an unstable but functional partnership that, over time, becomes a real friendship.
What are you doing?
I'll never forget you. Don't forget me either, Eddie.
No.
Time to go!
No.
On the more unhinged side, we have Carnage, a symbiote born from Venom that bonds with serial killer Cletus Cassidy. Carnage doesn't balance his host. He amplifies him, turning chaos into the entire point. It's one of the best examples of a symbiote at its best, because the synergy between Cletus and his symbiote is why Carnage is so incredibly dangerous. Symbiotes also play a major role in Spider-Man 3, where Peter Parker bonds with the Black Suit. The suit boosts his abilities, but feeds his anger and ego, slowly changing his personality, damaging his friendships, and causing him to be far more violent. He eventually rejects it, and it finds a new host in Eddie Brock, the Sam Raimi version, not the Tom Hardy one. One of the most important symbiote traits is the hive mind. Symbiotes can share memories across hosts and even across universes. That's why Venom recognizes Peter Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home, because the symbiote in the Sam Raimi-verse knows that Spidey is Peter Parker. Faltines. The faltines are a race of mystical beings whose bodies are composed of magical energy. The only example we have of a living faltine is Dormammu, who is powerful enough to rule over the dark dimension and conquer several dimensions. The only way Strange was able to stop him was to trap him in a time loop using the Time Stone. We see Dormammu use dark dimension magic many times, and it is implied that Dormammu is immortal. Whether all faltines share this trait is unknown, but we only have him to go off of. Let's talk about what the guy looks like. So, he's absolutely massive, and he looks like an abstract concept more than a physical being. His face is enormous, constantly shifting, with glowing, fiery eyes. He kind of resembles a humanoid skull, but at the same time, he also just looks like a storm of purple and orange energy. The most interesting thing is that he seems to blend into the dimension as if he's a part of it. So all in all, it's a really creepy look. They did a great job selling the eldritch horror vibes on this one. Special beings. In Marvel, there's a small group of entities that don't really fit into any normal category. They aren't aliens, gods, or cosmic races. They sit above all of that. Beings like the First Firmament, the Living Tribunal, and the Beyonders belong to this tier. These entities don't come from planets or species. They come from the structure of reality itself. The First Firmament is the original universe, the source from which everything else was born. The Living Tribunal exists to judge and regulate the entire multiverse, stepping in when reality becomes unbalanced. The Beyonders exist completely outside the multiverse, beyond time, space, and even the laws that govern existence, observing and sometimes reshaping it from the outside. What links them together is that none of them live inside normal reality. They operate on a level where universes are just pieces on a board. Civilizations rise and fall below them without ever being noticed. These beings form the unseen top layer of Marvel's hierarchy. Everything else, from gods to celestials to entire universes, exists beneath them. Then we have groups like the Aspirants and Deviants, who were created in the earliest stages of the cosmos. The Aspirants were loyal servants of the first firmament, enforcing its idea of a universe that doesn't change. The Celestials went against that idea and rebelled against the first. The Celestials did more than just rebel, though. They also experimented and created a life form of their own, known as the Deviants. These were meant to assist with celestial seeding, being they soon went out of control, causing the Celestials to create the Eternals. Honestly, there aren't enough hours in the day for how many aliens there are in Marvel, but we're going to keep exploring all of them, from the most niche, one-time only appearance to the biggest bads of the MCU. But for all that and more, you have to stay tuned. So click that bell icon and stay subscribed to the channel.